Hello everybody, this is JT O'Malley 9681 giving you a testimony. I will be stepping away from Calvary Chapel Roanoke. Calvary Chapel in Roanoke, Virginia. And that is because of Pastor Brian Phillips and him turning Calvary Chapel Roanoke into a cult. I did confront one of the leaders about some things that I knew of before some of the others that I found out after. The assistant pastor who I spoke to, I realized he lied to me because I had asked him about why there are less events out for the ladies and so much more for the men. And he told me that there actually have been, but there have been women who actually did not want to show up as much as a lot of them should, and have given excuses to why they're not going. And then they turn around and spread rumors. Well, come to find out, I spoke with another sister who used to go there, and even she remembers that when she was still going there, it was still the same way back then as it is now. That has never been the case. There have been women who have been going a lot, but there's not enough that are actually being done because it's always for the men. So he lied to me about that. And one thing he said that out of all of the women's not conferences, but all of the women's events, that would include the ladies' conference, that he should know because he's always there to help out. That I could tell you beyond shadow of a doubt was not true. For some reason, I did not feel compelled to address that. Because the last ladies' conference here very recently was the only one that he actually went to help out, and he was actually leading along with Pastor Brian. You don't do that at a ladies' conference. It's meant for the ladies. And this assistant pastor also lied to me about there not being any end times, because you have to go back to the Old Testament as well as the New Testament for end times, for Bible prophecy in general, all that. The Old Testament is just as relevant as the New Testament. And some would argue it's even more relevant than the New Testament. I'd say they're equal, but that's me. Well, there has not been anything since 2018. There's been nothing but New Testament. The only Old Testament has been from our two assistant pastors and a couple of the other elders. Other than that, Brian Phillips will not go into the Old Testament like he used to. Now, what I found out after I addressed those to the assistant pastor is that our senior pastor, Brian Phillips, has his own full-time business of Israel tours. Now, if he was working with an organization that was doing these tours and was offered to be paid for his assistance and what he does, then I can understand that. But no, I think this has been happening either since 2014 or 2015. Somewhere in there. Because in 2012-13, Brian Phillips was totally different. But there has been hardly any change from the lessons that he had given in the New Testament. And for these past couple of years, I hardly have been getting anything new out of anything. Brian Phillips has not been studying week in and week out in God's Word. And this tour business of his is his full-time job. Him being a senior pastor with the money that he gets from that, to him, that's just a side job now. And he's running it as a cult now. He's actually using excommunication tools, which is something that the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is actually supposed to still be doing, even though they claim it's only fundamentalists that do it. they're still supposed to be doing it because it's still in the transcripts. And that's what cults do. When we had an assistant pastor, Greg Rooney, he got excommunicated, but he tried to make it not look so bad. But he had been excommunicated for the simple fact he told Brian that Brian was incorrect about something, and Brian didn't want to hear it, and Brian kicked him out, told him never come back. So Brian lied to all of us who didn't know deep inside what was going on. This is very sad and depressing, and it makes me angry that he would treat people like this. Brian never did this before. At least not that I had noticed. The lust for the love of money is the root of all evil. And that is what that passage actually means. It's not the love of money, it's the lust for the love of money. And it's been clouding Brian Phillips tremendously. When you're a senior pastor, you don't have an extra side job or full-time job or whatever off to the side and put the church to the side and put your full focus on other things. You don't do that as a senior pastor. Your main focus is that flock. That is your main focus. And Brian is not doing that. If anything else, he should, if he had something like that or part of an organization, whatever, and had other elders or assistant pastors or whatever that would help in on that so that he can have his main focus on the flock, Calvary Chapel in Roanoke, Virginia, then I can understand that. But no, this is for his own personal money, financial gain. And then the money he gets from Calvary Chapel Roanoke is a side job for him now. So very, very sad and depressing. I will not be going to Calvary Chapel in Roanoke, Virginia anymore. And all of the Bible studies that I have of Pastor Brian, and even of the assistant pastor who lied to me, and I'll have to put the other assistant pastor who I've had a couple Bible studies, 2 or 3 or so, they will be deleted off of my YouTube channel. And any other website like Daily Motion, whatever that I may have posted already, are going to be deleted. Even though the lessons are good, they have to be deleted. I ask everybody who views this and has listened to this far to pray for those other leaders, to pray for Brian Phillips, and to pray for Calvary Chapel Roanoke to get out of this disease. Because it's just like the passage that Jesus said about talking with your brother. Of course, that's if your brother had done something personally against you, which the only thing that really was being lied to. But there's so many other things that has happened as a whole, I still consider it as the same thing, or at least the same principle. And I did speak to one of the leaders alone. I did do that. Then you bring witnesses. Witnesses I've done. And they are still not listening. So after you've done the list, when you bring it to the church, and they still won't listen, which has been done, you treat them as you would a heathen or a publican. And what Jesus meant was not to excommunicate, but the disease of the world is going through them. You don't want that disease within your spirit. It's like a spiritual disease. Stay away from that. And that's what I'm going to have to do. I'm so very thankful for Jack Hibbs, Amir Tsarfati, Jan Markell, and D Farag. I will have links in the video description to all of their channels here on YouTube. And it wasn't just Greg Rooney that these excommunication tools have been used against. It's being used against even recent times here. That's why some people that have left already have left because of that, because they were not going to do that. So I ask everybody to please pray for Calvary Chapel Roanoke, for those who still believe in it, and for the leaders there, and for Brian Phillips. And I ask you to pray for me that if I don't find something more local, that God still teaches me through the good that we can get out of social media, which is falling short because social media, the mainstream, doesn't want the stuff. So with that, this is JTM 99681 signing off, and I better testimony in the name of thy Son, Yeshua HaMashiach, Jesus Christ. Amen.